So I remember I was just sitting on my computer in the living room and my alarm started going off, but I had never heard the alarm before. So my mind couldn't process what was happening. 皆さんこんにちは。On the World Stage チャンネルにお帰り。初めて見る人がいたら、私の名前はマリエルです。日本に住んでいますよ。Hello everyone, welcome back to On the World Stage. If you're new here, my name is Marielle and I live in Japan. I think from now on I might do the intro in Japanese even though I'm speaking in English because many of my viewers are Japanese, so why not? So on this beautiful, peaceful morning, I am eating my breakfast in the park. So I have some bread. And I thought I would just talk to you about something today. So before we get started, let me show you my breakfast. This is a bakery. This is bakery, Container Bakery San in Kiyosumi, Shirakawa. And they have really delicious things. And they also have suika juice, watermelon juice, which is my favorite juice. I have two types of bread. I have a bacon bread, interesting shape, and then this one, this is so good. This is the second time I'm trying it. This is a sweet potato stick bread. Okay, let me start with this bacon bread, then we will get into today's topic. Itadakimasu. Oishii. Okay, so today's topic. I wanted to discuss something that many people ask me in Japan, especially many Japanese people ask me. If you don't already know, I am from the United States and I am from New York, so on the East Coast of the United States. Many Japanese people ask me how I feel about earthquakes for that reason. You may know that on the West Coast in California, which is geographically more similar to Japan, they have earthquakes quite frequently, but I have only been to California once as a child. I have not experienced frequent earthquakes in my life. Moving to Japan, earthquakes were something I had to get used to, and actually, my first year and a half in Japan, I was living in Kyoto, and in Kyoto, there are not as many earthquakes. Usually earthquakes are occurring on the east coast of Japan. So for that reason, the first time I really had an experience with an earthquake, or many earthquakes, was in Tokyo. I moved to Tokyo 2 years ago from Kyoto, and I still remember it so well, my first earthquake in Tokyo. So when I first moved to Tokyo, I lived in a share house and it was quite old. It was not a modern building, it was a pretty old house. In the middle of the night, I felt like, whoa, like I woke up in the middle of the night and the room was just shaking. I seriously had never felt an earthquake while living in Kyoto. I don't know if I had slept through one or they're just really small. I did not remember feeling one. So I just like woke up thinking,
it's an emergency.
I was really scared. The feeling of an earthquake for someone who did not grow up with them, who's not familiar with them, is really, really strange. It's very surreal. It didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel like, you know, the whole room could really be shaking like that. It just feels like someone like took my room and just started going like this. So around that time 2 years ago, I developed a real anxiety about earthquakes. And I remember in the share house, like I was messaging the share house manager saying like,
what information do we have about earthquake evacuation? Can you please send me information? And then
they were sending me information about my ward, and I just felt like, how do I prepare for an earthquake? So pretty much every night I had anxiety about what if an earthquake wakes me up, and it happened a few times. At the time that I moved to Tokyo 2 years ago, like spring 2 years ago, spring 2021, there were quite a few earthquakes that happened. It was something that took me a long time to get used to. So if you live in Japan, you know that when there's a big earthquake, that an alarm goes off on all of the phones. Of course, it's a really, really unique sound that everyone recognizes, but I had never heard it before until one time in that first year I lived in Tokyo. There was a really big earthquake, and it set off the alarms on our phones. And I remember I was in the share house living room, and fortunately there were other people around, so I wasn't alone. But I remember the foreigners, like, we were a bit scared. The Japanese people were really calm, so it was comforting to have them around. I have my other bread. I love a twist. It was comforting to have Japanese people around during an earthquake because they're so used to it. The earthquake systems in Japan are really advanced because they're so frequent, and they're very sensitive, so they can pick up that an earthquake is about to happen. It picks it up before we actually feel it. So I remember I was just sitting on my computer in the living room, and my alarm started going off, but I had never heard the alarm before. So my mind couldn't process what was happening. Like, it was too fast. My mind couldn't process, what's that sound? What does that mean? By the time I had started to process what the sound was, the room was shaking and things were falling over. I followed my housemates into the doorway, so we stood in the doorway so we're not beneath anything that would fall. And one of my housemates just kept saying during the whole thing, the shaking was going on for a really long time, and my housemate, one of the foreign housemates, he kept saying what do we do? What do we do? I think that's the scariest thing about an earthquake, actually, is that it is very humbling because it leaves you completely helpless. There's nothing you can do to control the fact the whole earth is shaking beneath your feet. I think an earthquake is a reminder of the power of nature and how small we actually are as humans, and how incapable we actually are of controlling many things. I think if you are Japanese and you are very used to earthquakes, if you have any foreign friends, or if you live in a share house, or if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse who is from another country, please be sensitive to the fact that we may not be as calm or as used to earthquakes as you are. In the beginning, I definitely felt a lot of panic. One time there was a big earthquake. It was one, I think, that happened in North Japan that caused a lot of destruction. Maybe it was last year or a year and a half ago, but we felt some of it in Tokyo. So it felt very big to me, and things were falling over in my room, and it was shaking, and I felt really scared, and I felt really alone too. I was just in my room at that time. I don't know if anyone else was around. I think I posted it on my story on Instagram, and someone responded to me, and they kind of were laughing, and they said,
"Oh, that wasn't even that big. Why are you scared?"
This is a really rare comment. I know most of my viewers are so kind and would never say something like this, but at that time, someone did say that to me. I felt really upset by that message, actually. Just because you're used to earthquakes and it's not so big to you doesn't mean that other people aren't scared. We're not all the same. We don't process everything the same way. As I said, I wasn't used to earthquakes when I came to Japan. It took me a really long time to become calm in an earthquake situation. Okay, so how am I doing now with earthquakes? Now I think I am much better with earthquakes. I was talking to my parents yesterday about this. Now I live in an apartment that's very well built, so it's quite new, the building. So the feeling during the earthquake is like the building swaying. Things didn't even really fall over, it just was swaying for a while, and I felt for the first time really calm during an earthquake. I didn't feel scared at all, I didn't feel unsafe, and I'm very fortunate. I think that if I still lived in my share house, which was really old, it might be a different experience, but yeah, I'm really fortunate that I can live in a safe building. After the earthquake the other day, I went to the convenience store and just everyone was there like nothing had happened. Everyone's very calm. No one even reacted to it. Again, I haven't lived somewhere where earthquakes are frequent, like California, but Americans are usually much more like talkative about these things. So like if a earthquake happened, I kind of assume that Americans would like start talking about it. Be like,
Wow, that was scary, or that was a big one. Are you okay? Are you okay?
I'm just so amazed. Japanese people are very calm and composed. So it actually helps me. It makes me feel more calm in the situation. And now, because I'm a children's English teacher, I have to do an earthquake drill sometimes. So yeah, I did an earthquake drill with my kindergarten students. And in that situation, I have to be the one who is very calm because children are scared of earthquakes, even Japanese children. So yeah, I have to be the leader, even though I'm a foreigner, even though it took me a while to get used to earthquakes. I have to be the role model in the situation. So I think that also helped me to gain more composure and confidence. Okay everyone, thank you so much for watching my video about earthquakes. I hope that you learned something about my perspective as a foreigner about earthquakes in Japan. If you have any more questions for me, please comment below and I might make a video response to it. I really appreciate all of you. We got to 13,000 subscribers. I'm so grateful for you. Please follow me on Instagram. You can also message me there if you would like to send a video request or just say hello. So my Instagram is On The World Stage. So as always, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Arigatou gozaimashita. Mata ne!